Okay, we're continuing here in the Orchos Yosher into the next part of the section of TEFILLAH, and this is the idea about passing and sitting in front of a person when they're in the middle of davening. Can you walk in front of somebody while they're davening? Now, what's the problem? The problem is they're talking to the Shekhinah. So if you believe in the Shekhinah, if you believe in the Rabbi Shalom, and you believe that a person, when he comes to shul and he's davening, that he's actually talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then if you walk in front of that person, it's like walking in front of someone who's having a conversation with the King of the universe. Not a very nice thing for a person to do, and therefore he brings down Yizar Ma'oid. You have to be very careful. Mashi Yisira Chazal, that Chazal teach us. Shelo Yavor Lifnei HaMispalalim, you cannot pass in front of people that are praying. V'lo Yeshiv Teich Arba Amos Shel HaMispal, you should not even sit within 4 amos of a person that is in the midst of davening. Now an amma is about 1.5 feet, so Dalet amos is 6 feet. That's quite a big area of space that you have to keep in mind, that when you sit down in your seat, if somebody behind you is in the middle of someone within 6 feet of you is davening, so then a person should not even sit down over there. V'lamdu mikrai, we learn this out from different psukim, and the halachic authorities speak about it. So too, do not take a step within the Dalet amos of a person who is davening. Even if you would go within 4 amos, you'd go within 4 amos to the side of the person who's still davening, even that is going to be an issue. That stadin shelafanav kilafanav dami, because the sides are considered to be like the sides that are in front of the person are like in front of the person itself. So the guy standing here and you're like over here on the side, that's like being in front of him, says Rav Chaim Kanievsky, and therefore, according to Magen Avram, you have to be very particular. Now, just to bring down over here that this is one of the major things, sometimes you go to a minyan that you're not so familiar with, if somebody comes and they daven and they're new around there, and they're very makpid, they're very particular that they will never ever step within Dalet amos of a person that's still davening. So it comes out then that if you are in the middle of davening Shmoneh Esrei, and there's somebody in front of you who finished Shmoneh Esrei already, they're not allowed to take their 3 steps back because they would be walking within Dalet amos of you while you are in the midst of davening. You can't do that. So usually a person who wants to make it known that he's keeping this halacha strictly, and you're holding him up, he looks back like every 2 seconds. He just keeps looking back at you to see how long you're going to die. Just keeps looking back like this. You should know that I'm very makpid on this halacha, and you are bothering me because you're davening so long to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so I have to keep looking back every 3 seconds to make sure that you're aware that you should pick up the pace and everything. Now, it could be, in fact, that a person who is holding somebody up should have a bit of derech eretz for the person that's standing in front of them and realize not everybody has the patience of nails that apparently you do, that you're davening longer, and therefore that you're obstructing this person from being able to take his 3 steps back. But I used to daven in a minyan by Rav Yosef Berger in Baltimore, and I had an issue because I like to daven Shmoneh Esrei a little bit longer than other people, and wherever I daven, it was a very tight minyan at the time, we were in a basement, and wherever I davened, no matter where I stood, I was always within somebody's Dalet amos, so whoever was in front of me could never ever take 3 steps back. And it was beginning to annoy people, and I had no idea where to stand during davening. So I didn't know what to do, so I asked Rabbi Berger, what am I supposed to do? I can't stand here, I can't stand there, I can't always get a front row seat, I don't know what to do. So he told me in halacha that after I would finish Shmoneh Esrei, when you get to the part at the end of the Shmoneh Esrei, after the last bracha, your supplications over there. So he told me that it's already, once that I start that, it's already ki'ilu, that I finished the Shmoneh Esrei. He told me I could tap the person in front of me on the shoulder, and they would know that they could then take 3 steps backwards, even right into me. He was makel in that area. I had to explain to people why I was tapping them on the shoulder in the middle of my Shmoneh Esrei, but it wasn't Shmoneh Esrei anymore, it was already these supplications at the end. However, it is brought down the following, that if a person is in the midst of davening and somebody in front of them finishes and they want to take the 3 steps backwards. So the Dirshu Shulchan Aruch brings down over here from Rav Chaim Kanievsky himself, Shebeshas hadachak, when it's a pressing hour, a pressing moment, Gamim oivim mamish me'acharav, even if the guy is standing right behind you, Yochel yivsoil itzadim, the person who wants to take his 3 steps back, he could step off to the side, which you see this happen very often. And it usually happens, the guy who's so makbid that he'll never take 3 steps back when someone else is davening, you'll see how long he can hold out. At a certain point, that same fellow is going to start, suddenly he's going to go to the side. So that's called Shas Adachak. I mean, I can't wait any longer. So it's a pressing time for me, and therefore the person could end up taking his 3 steps to the side. As long as you don't get right towards the one who's davening. So you have to go like this, that you're off to the side. Anyway, but this is the reason, as we said, because the person that is davening is talking to the Rabbi Shalom. So if you walk in, you're like walking into this private conversation that he's having. Therefore, it's also you're not allowed to leave shul in before the end of davening, or even in the middle of davening. A person should not leave. Unless it is necessity. A person has to go to the restroom. They don't have to stand in the shul the whole time. A person, there's an emergency going on in the other room, Hatzal is calling. It's in the middle of davening, I can't leave now, you go and save somebody's life. But just to walk out of the room in the middle of davening, for no really good reason, that's what we're talking about over here, a person should not do that. The Chazal are very, very machmir, they're very stringent in this area. The Kasvan, they write, the person who either walks in front of a person who's in the midst of davening, or who leaves shul early, comes in and out, leaves shul early, he's within the category of Ha'oz ve'Hashem yichlo. Those who abandon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they will perish. I am b'paiskim. Take a look in the halachic authorities over there, and you'll see what it means. Meaning, again, if you are someone that believes that in a Beis HaKnesses, we are gathering here because we want to daven to the Rabbi Shalom, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bending his ear to listen to everything that we say, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is neged you, he is opposite you when you speak. So a person, as he writes over here, I'll continue his words, someone who takes these laws lightly, it's as if he doesn't believe, chas v'shalom, God forbid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu nimsa b'beis HaKnesses. He doesn't believe that Hashem is here. And he's standing in front of the king. And it's as if he is shaming and disgracing the king of the universe, the Rabbi Shalom. The kol shekain, all the more so, oisekain tamid b'kvius. A person does this constantly. He always steps back into a person who's davening. He always walks in front of people when they're in the midst of the Shemona Esrei. He's always finding a good excuse why it is that he has to leave davening early. Besides the desecration of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, many people will learn from you. People come to shul, they look at you, you're a knowledgeable fellow, they take a lesson from you. So if you take 3 steps back to the person who's still davening, or you walk out for whatever reason it might be, or you're walking back and forth in front of people that are in the middle of Shemona Esrei, so people will learn from your actions. V'anshay keneged kulam, and then the punishment that you're going to receive as a result of that is equivalent to the punishments that every single person got who learned from you and then took 3 steps back or walked in front of a person that was davening. So if 20 people saw you in shul go like this and you actually banged into the guy behind you, and they say, oh, I guess you're allowed to do such a thing, and 20 people now do the same thing to the person that they are standing in front of, so then there's 20 people that will get the punishment of walking back and walking in the way of the Shekhinah and the person is davening, and then all those 20 punishments will come to the person themselves who taught them how to do such a thing. So we have to be careful with our actions. And number 2, we have to have a roch, we have to have a real appreciation and a value for what goes on inside of a Beis HaKnesses. It's not stam, just a place where we're gathering and we're davening, we're actually gathering and davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is literally right here with us.
Someone is davening really close to the Arno or the Bima, and someone has to do Psicha, or we have to read the Torah.
Yeah, he brings down over here, even he brings down over here in the Dirsha, that even a person, even the Shaliach Sibor, who's in the midst of davening, you should do your best to avoid stepping within Dalet Amos of him.
We shouldn't open the Psicha.
I'm saying, obviously, we're gonna. I think we're going to, but we should probably not let people daven right over here. Halavai will be so crowded that there's no other place to daven except right over here. And then whoever does will tell them that they have to make sure that they keep up the pace.